What is clean energy?
Energy is energy with net zero carbon emissions, differing slightly to renewable energy which occurs naturally and continuously. Examples include wind farms, solar panels, biomass, hydroelectric and geothermal vents. In the past few decades, there's been rapid development in clean energy generation, helped by the construction of the present-day megastructures. Progressions have helped increase the use of renewable energy sources, contributing to 17.5% of the total energy mix. The shares of renewables are rising, but so is global energy consumption, which is nearly at 14 billion tonnes of oil equivalent a year. Every year, humans dump 8 billion tonnes of carbon into the atmosphere, 60% of which is energy related, which is why the energy sources we use must change dramatically to avoid a 2-degree rise in global temperatures and the associated risks. Annually, over 4 million people die from indoor air pollution caused by burning dangerous fuels. This demonstrates the urgent need to make clean energy widely accessible and affordable to all nations. Renewable energy struggles to compete against traditional energy sources as they are cheaper and countries are still benefiting from long-term contracts. This problem is being tackled by the introduction of environmental and energy taxes. In 2018, the largest number of carbon taxes were introduced globally, with China being the first government to do so.
It will no longer be free to pollute anywhere in Canada.
China has become the leading country in clean energy, starting by shutting down hundreds of coal-fired power plants, with the goal of generating more high-quality jobs and being less reliant on oil and gas. They have recognised the importance of clean energy, as 1.6 million of their population is dying yearly from exposure to air pollution. According to the 2018 Global Wind Report, China had the highest amount of new installations of both wind farms on and offshore. This has been possible due to China's own policy and management system for the wind sector, allowing for advances in technology. Due to these advancements, they have managed to increase the use of renewables and shift their energy away from fossil fuels over time. In 2007, the Chinese government announced plans to increase the proportion of renewable energy to 15% by 2020, compared to just 8% in 2006. They've also released a 5-year plan, which requires a minimum amount of consumed energy to come from renewable sources, starting in 2020.
Every 5 years in China, man, they make a new development plan. The time has come for number 13. Should sound new, that's what it means.
As mentioned, China is still reliant on coal. When shifting energy systems, there are still many factors to consider. Production costs, the initial cost, the uncertainty and quantity of supply, the amount of space required. Wind turbines require a large amount of space in order for them to work at maximum efficiency, making it difficult for countries to use them as their main source of energy. Each turbine has to be a certain distance away from residential areas and each other, with the distance varying from country to country. In order to power the world with wind turbines, you would need 4 million of them, covering an area the size of half of Alaska. The cost of deploying wind energy has fallen 90% since the 1980s, and it now matches the price of traditional energy sources. The cost of initial installation and construction have dropped as well. They can now be paid off after just 6 months. Wind power has the second largest potential energy production of all forms of clean energy, so it's important that the price drops and technology improves to make it more appealing to the global community. Solar energy, even more so than wind, has large potential. The amount of radiation falling on Earth is more than 200 times as much as we currently use. If solar farms were to be constructed in these 6 locations, the world's energy demands could be met by collecting just 8% of sunlight. China is in an ideal location for solar panels and is leading the way in the solar development, which has been growing rapidly since 2014. But for all these advancements, solar only provides 0.5% of their annual electricity consumption. And ironically, solar energy does have a dark side. Only a small number of solar panels can collect energy at night. Cadmium and arsenic are released during the production. SF6, which is an extremely potent greenhouse gas, is used in circuits, and they have a high initial installation cost. Technology, innovation, and increased efficiency has driven down the price of renewables to competitive levels. As the price drops and sunlight conversion efficiency increases, so will the growth rate of the solar industry, providing more and more people with clean and affordable energy. The transition towards clean energy is happening, but is it happening fast enough? Even though clean energy usage has increased over time, so has fossil fuels at a rate of 2.3% per year. An innovative and futuristic idea has been proposed in Japan. They plan to place solar panels on the moon starting from 2030 to potentially power the whole world's energy needs. More realistic approaches like the Paris Agreement are a step in the right direction, but not all countries are on board. In 2017, the US pulled out of the accord, claiming that it was damaging to their economy. With all the emphasis on clean energy, it's easy to forget that 1 in 10 people without electricity. When transitioning to green energy, we shouldn't forget to incorporate countries or areas that are just setting up electricity systems. The initial setup price still acts as a barrier for many companies and governments, and without foreign help it might just be easier to use fossil fuels.
The renewable sector is growing fast, but not nearly fast enough. To make clean energy economically viable, the price must drop below fossil fuels without the use of subsidies, so that both developed and developing countries can adopt it. Solar and wind are the most promising green energy sources, but at the rate we're going, they won't become the dominant source anytime soon.
It seems inevitable that temperatures will rise above 2 degrees unless an unprecedented paradigm shift occurs. The power to change the world is in our hands. We get to decide whether we want to save our planet or watch it burn.